After the Cold War ended, the United States pursued a policy that I called liberal hegemony. And the main aim of that strategy was to remake the world in America's image. The policy has failed miserably. If you look at US foreign policy from the end of the Cold War till now, and especially since 2001, it's marked by a whole series of abject failures. And I'll talk about that at great length. And the $64,000 question is why? Why was there all this optimism in the early 1990s? Why did people think we had the wind at our back, and we were going to be able to remake the world in our own image? And today, things don't look good at all. What went wrong? And my argument is that to understand what went wrong, you have to understand the relationship between nationalism and realism and liberalism. And I believe, again, that we have followed what is essentially a liberal foreign policy. This is called liberal hegemony. And that it has been defeated at almost every turn by nationalism and realism. Okay? Now, the way I want to proceed is, first of all, I want to talk about what liberalism is. Then I want to talk about what nationalism is. And when I talk about liberalism and nationalism, I'm not going to say anything about international politics, at least in any meaningful way. I just want to give you a sense for what liberalism is. The United States is a thoroughly liberal country. It is a liberal democracy. Both Republicans, who we sometimes refer to as conservatives, are liberals, and Democrats are liberals. I'm using the term liberal in the John Lockean sense of the term. The United States was born as a liberal democracy. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, these are thoroughly liberal documents. We are a liberal people, okay? But what exactly does that mean? It's very important that you understand it, because you have to understand what liberalism is to understand liberal hegemony and what went wrong. Then it's very important to understand what nationalism is. John's argument is very simple here. Nationalism is the most powerful ideology on the planet. And in a contest between liberalism and nationalism, nationalism wins every time. And what I want to do is explain to you what liberalism is, what nationalism is, and why nationalism defeats liberalism. Then what I want to do is talk about what liberal hegemony is. What does it mean to say that the United States is interested in remaking the world in its own image? So I'll describe that. Then I want to talk about why we pursued liberal hegemony. And of course, I've tipped you off by telling you that the United States is a thoroughly liberal country, but there's more to the story. Then I want to tell you what our track record is. I want to describe our failures in the Middle East, with regard to NATO expansion in Russia, and with regard to engagement in China. Just talk about the evidence that we goofed. Then I want to talk about why liberal hegemony fails. And this, again, is basically a story about nationalism and realism trumping liberalism. And then I want to make the case for restraint, what I think is a wise foreign policy. Okay?